Good afternoon, Jets Nation. Welcome to the Jew Jet Show. And last night, the New York Jets lost in the Hall of Fame game 21-16 to the Cleveland Browns. So here's the takeaways from last night's loss. First off, we got to talk about Zach Wilson, who I thought played solid last night. He completed 3 of his 5 passing attempts for 65 yards, 57 of which came from a bomb to Malik Taylor down the sideline. And let's talk about the throw to Malik Taylor, because it's something we never really seen from Zach Wilson before. Now, yes, we've seen Zach Wilson complete deep passes down the field before, but we never really seen him do anything pinned back in our own end zone. Because this drive started off with the Xavier Gipson muff punt, which caused us to go out of bounds at the 2-yard line. We were pinned back in our own end zone. And normally in that situation in the past, Zach Wilson panicked. He did something stupid. He looked lost. But not this time. He was calm. He was cool. He was collective. He knew what he wanted to do. He knew he had to get the ball downfield, and that's exactly what he did. And really just like that we're starting to see some baby steps from Zach Wilson, because he also went through his reads a lot, looked like he knew what he wanted to do from the football every single time he threw the ball, or even every time he touched the football. He knew he had a plan, didn't really look lost, and that's just the baby steps we need to see from Zach Wilson tonight. He also made some comments after the game about how with Nathaniel Hackett, a veteran offensive coordinator, he has more of a plan. His exact words were, "The last 2 years I felt kind of hectic, scrambled, and tonight it felt like I had a plan." And the last 2 years, Zach Wilson wasn't good. He looked lost. He really didn't know what to do with the football. And yeah, we haven't seen third-year Zach Wilson play in a regular season game. Who knows if we will. But in the little bit of, moment we saw from him in a preseason football game, he looked like he had a plan, which is good. That's what we need to see from Zach Wilson. And it looks like having Aaron Rodgers in his ear, Nathaniel Hackett in his ear, 2 strong veteran presence, is making him better, which obviously is what we expected, but it's glad to see it's paying off. Moving over to the offensive line, we of course saw Mekhi Becton return back to game action last night, and he was supposed to play 20 to 25 snaps. Only played 7, but it was because, the turf wasn't feeling great on his knee. He is still coming back from his injury, and you don't want to rush Mekhi Becton into anything. We don't want him suffering another season-ending injury, so it's kind of great the New York Jets decided, hey, you've already dominated tonight. You're good. You can take a break. We don't want you to get hurt again. And he really did dominate last night. He didn't allow any sacks in both rushing and pass protection. The dude was bulldozing people. In the 7 snaps you saw from him, he played great. And moving over to the middle of the offensive line, we got to talk about Joe Tippmann, because he played the entire football game, had 23 pass blocking snaps, didn't allow a single pressure, did great in the run blocking. Joe Tippmann looked like a pro football center. Now, of course, it wasn't a preseason game. He was blocking guys that probably won't be on NFL rosters this time next month. But nonetheless, it's just glad we saw a good football game from Joe Tippmann. And the last offensive takeaway I have is from Israel Abanikand's performance. He didn't do anything, super crazy. Only had 9 carries for 27 yards, but he did have a touchdown, a 10-yard touchdown. And on that touchdown, we saw how explosive Israel Abanikand can be. Whenever the New York Jets gave him that space to work with on the outside, he used his speed, beat out several defenders into the end zone. That's why the New York Jets drafted him, and it's great to see that he's already displaying that speed, that talent in his first ever NFL game. And moving over to the defensive side of the ball, really was impressed with what we saw from the linebackers last night. Not just a single one. I thought they all played pretty great. Jamien Sherwood, Zaire Barnes, Caleb Johnson, Shaz Surratt, Charden Charles, all had pretty good performances, and all really finished with, 4 or 5 tackles. They all kind of were just all around the ball together. No one was making more plays than each other. They were all just looking good out there. Wish we could have saw more from Hasmer Nasruddin, but he did leave the game after the second play due to a neck injury, so hopefully he's okay. Wish we could have saw more from Shaz Surratt as well, because I think he was really playing like the best linebacker, but he left the game due to some type of injury, so we never really got to see him finish. But overall, the linebackers, they played well. And they also were the only people to create turnovers in last night's game as well. Jamien Sherwood had that forced fumble, and Shaz Surratt had an interception as well. So linebackers had a pretty good performance last night. Also got to give a shout out to the special teams, because Greg Zuerlein was automatic last night. He was 3 for 3 on field goals, 1 for 1 on extra points, and he made field goals from 54 yards out, 53 yards out, and 44 yards out. Dude was a beast last night. Thomas Morstead also looked pretty good. He gave the New York Jets a consistent punting performance, which is obviously what we wanted to see from our punter. But that's kind of all my takeaways I had from last night's game. Obviously, it sucks we lost, but we couldn't find an answer for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Tim Boyle, Chris Streveler kind of just laid a goose egg out there on the offensive side of things. They really couldn't get the ball moving, and you can't really overreact to this type of stuff, because second half of preseason games is really whenever you get to the nitty-gritty of the roster. You really start to see a bunch of plays from players that probably won't be on the roster next month. So, it's to be expected that, the offensive performance and really, defensive performance wasn't, amazing in the second half. But nonetheless, still like what I saw from the New York Jets last night. Comment down below your biggest takeaway from last night's loss. And I'm your host, Jet, signing off for now. See you guys later. Peace.